that keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. Time to do a game prediction show. Went through the schedule, looked at it, broke it down. Then we ranked it. What was the easiest game? What was the toughest game? How exactly would that play into the predictions? It's always a lot of fun when you get to predict these games. And, of course, the likelihood of being 100% right is not very good, because the fact is you have to take a lot of things into account. And before the season, it's all on paper. There's no injuries. There's no teams that are playing hot. Some of these matchups look to be one-sided. Now you can get into the regular season and all of a sudden somebody's playing like the Houston Texans because C.J. Stroud came on the scene and DeMeco Ryans has got the defense playing well. Those types of things are hard to figure out. But it's always a lot of fun because it gives you an idea of the games, at least, that the 49ers may have some struggles with. So you can take a look and you can find a range of what their record could be. Ultimately, what is their goal? To be the number one seed in the NFC and get home playoff advantage throughout the playoffs, but also to make sure they don't have to play week one in Wild Card Weekend. Because Wild Card Weekend is interesting. Number one, it's unpredictable. There's games Saturday, Sunday, and now Monday. And you don't want to be one of those teams that plays on Monday. That means the next playoff game you play on, you are going to be on short rest for sure. Of course, you could play on Sunday and be on short rest in the divisional round if you play on Saturday. But if you're coming off a bye, that's not the case. The 49ers have gotten two byes, one in 2019 and one last year in 2023. In both cases, they played on Saturday coming out of the bye week. So the other team that they were playing was coming on short rest. The 49ers were not. So it's a huge advantage. It gives your team an opportunity to get healthy, to get fresh, but you have to earn that right by how you play during the regular season. And there's a lot of tough games, and there's no way to know for sure if you're going to win, but we're going to talk about them. We'll talk about games that are at-risk games that could go one way or the other. Of course, at the end, I'm going to have a final prediction of what I believe the 49ers record could be as long as everything goes right, but there's also going to be games along the way where you're like, hey, that could be a loss or that could be a win, and that could tip it a different direction. Of course, just like always, let me know in the comment section down below what you think the record prediction is going to be for you. I want you to let me know how good you think the 49ers are going to do or how bad. I've seen someone say the 49ers are going to go 0-20 in my comment section. Not really a possibility. The worst they could do is 0-17, but I like your negativity. It's to a whole other level. You really got to appreciate that. But like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe, please give it a 5-star rating. If you're going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from MLB, golf, NBA, and NHL playoff stats. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. So when you're looking at these games, there's a lot of things to take into account. How much rest are teams going to have? Is it an away game? Is there going to be potentially weather that's involved? How have these teams historically matched up? How do coaching staffs match up against coaching staffs? There's a lot that you take into account. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But one thing you can look at is matchups. And matchups are always a lot of fun to look at. And there's cool matchups for every single game the 49ers are going to be playing. And, of course, throughout the season, if you're a normal person on the channel, you are come by a lot, you're one of the Cutback crew, you know that we go deep into the matchups every single week. We talk about offensive matchups the 49ers should win. Defensive matchups they must win. We talk about coaching matchups. It's just a lot of fun to get into the X's and O's of football. So that's my approach when I'm making my game selections and game predictions on who's going to win. It doesn't always work out because if you're missing a guy like Fred Warner or Dre Greenlaw, that can somewhat hurt you. If you're missing a guy like your quarterback, you're in a lot of trouble. No Brock Purdy means Josh Dobbs is in. So those things you can't account for, especially now. Week to week, when we make our game predictions, it's a little bit easier. You can predict games depending on what you know about the status of players and the status of players on both teams. So that will be a little bit clear as we go through it. And make sure you join me all season long as I make my week to week predictions. But let's talk about week one 49ers versus the Jets. It's Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers is back and he's coming off an Achilles injury. How healthy will he be? Well, he was already practicing a lot earlier than people expected. So I expect him to be making a full recovery. And he's going to be looking to get back out there and making some plays because he's had a interesting last year and a half, basically, from the time getting traded from the Packers to the Jets to getting injured after 4 plays by 49ers now defensive end Leonard Floyd, who was playing for the Bills when he got hurt. But you've got a situation where Rodgers is usually decent against the 49ers in regular season. He has a winning record against the San Francisco 49ers in the regular season. But Kyle Shanahan, when playing coaches that used to coach with him, coach under him, he absolutely handles them. Sean McVay, he's owned. He beat Mike McDaniel. Coaches struggle that come back to play Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. You throw in the fact that the 49ers have one of the best rosters in the entire league, and this is going to be a tough battle for both teams. Now, the New York Jets are going to bring in Breece Hall and a run game that's going to be looking to establish and find the holes that the 49ers had last year. But the 49ers, they've made some changes. In comes Malik Collins along the defensive line. In comes Jordan Elliott along the defensive line. Leonard Floyd and Yatir Gross-Matos playing on the edge to help the San Francisco 49ers defense. They bring in Devondre Campbell to fill in for Dre Greenlaw until he's healthy. Hufanga should be back. So the 49ers have made some changes that hopefully will help their run defense, and they're going to need it in this game. You have to worry about Aaron. You have to worry about the weapons. You have to worry about Breece Hall. But I think the San Francisco 49ers are going to win this game. I think they're going to knock off the Jets. The Jets are traveling across the country. Of course, beginning of the year, that doesn't really matter, but I think both teams are pretty good. Good defenses. Sala will have his defense ready. I just don't know how good that offense is going to be under Nathaniel Hackett. Since he got away from Aaron Rodgers when Rodgers was with Green Bay, Hackett was there. Then he got the head coaching job with the Broncos. It was struggle in Denver. Didn't work out there with Russell Wilson. Last year, Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. Struggles there. So we don't exactly know how good Nathaniel Hackett's offense is going to be. It can be good with Aaron Rodgers, but how good will it be early in the season? I don't think good enough to beat the San Francisco 49ers. I think the 49ers are a superior team in most areas, and I think the 49ers will win this game 24-16. So the San Francisco 49ers pick up a W in week one, Monday Night Football prime time. Week two, they're headed to Minnesota to hopefully take on a familiar face in Sam Darnold. And that will be a lot of fun because he was the reclamation project. He came in. This is exactly why he came to San Francisco last year. Lots of teams wanting to bring him in to be a backup. But he knew playing for Kyle Shanahan meant a couple of things. Number one, they didn't know how well Brock Purdy was going to heal. Would Brock Purdy be available, right? All the conversation about they called Tom Brady. Brady wasn't interested. Well, Darnold made a lot of sense. Day one of free agency, you bring him in. He's a guy with starts under his belt. 49ers felt comfortable he could operate their system. So he comes in. He doesn't get that chance to start. But what he does get is a lot of respect around the league because he played for Kyle and because he played decently when he did have opportunities. Turns that into a starting job with the Minnesota Vikings. Now, they did draft their quarterback of the future in J.J. McCarthy, and at some point, he's going to take over. But early in the season, week two, there's a likelihood it's going to be Sam Darnold. So, Brock Purdy versus Sam Darnold, it's going to be a lot of fun. Plus, just watching this 49ers defense that practiced against Sam Darnold for an entire season, and now they're going to go out there and play him. It's going to be a lot of fun. The 49ers struggled in Minnesota. They've struggled in Minnesota historically. Since 1992, they have not won in Minnesota. That's something to take into account. But this Minnesota team is definitely on the downward spiral. They lost a very good edge rusher. And so Daniil Hunter moves on to Houston. The Vikings are losing a lot of talent on defense, lost a lot of talent on offense as well. I believe the San Francisco 49ers are going to win this game in Minnesota. And they're coming off short rest. It's not going to be an easy matchup. But I do think the 49ers are going to handle them. And I actually think the 49ers are going to handle them pretty easily, even though you got the 92 thing. They haven't won there since. And there's always people from that part of the country that tell me, hey, 49ers always struggle here. That's why they lost to Cleveland. They lose to Cincy when they play up there. There's just games they don't win when playing those teams. And that's a fair point. But I think the 49ers are going to win, and I think they're going to handle them. With Darnold at the helm, I just don't think it's going to be good play for Minnesota. 49ers 31-13. In week 3, the 49ers welcome the NFC West Los Angeles Rams. Or actually, I'm sorry, it's 49ers at Rams. So 49ers are headed down to LA, making the quick flight. And this is a tough matchup. Sean McVay is rebuilding that roster. Aaron Donald's now retired, but they bring in Jared Verse, a great defensive end out of Florida State. I had him ranked as my number 1 defensive end in the draft. And that's not it. They bring in Fisk from Florida State as well. Braden Fisk, one of my favorite guys at defensive tackle, hyper athletic. So athleticism, not a problem for that defensive line. They added it to Byron Young, who they drafted last year. They've got a lot of talent along the defensive line now. It's young talent. It's got to develop. But Young had a good season last year, and they've continued to add. They added guys to the secondary as well. So this team has got a lot of talent. Can they put it together early on in the season? But their offense is going to be good. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, talented, good running game. I think the Rams are going to be tough for the San Francisco 49ers. But early in the year, the way that Kyle Shanahan has owned Sean McVay over the years, I think it continues. I think last year, week 18, I was there. I think that was an anomaly. It was backups versus backups. I think if it was starters versus starters, 49ers would have won. If Matthew Stafford is healthy, this game gets a little bit closer. If Matthew Stafford's not healthy and it's Jimmy Garoppolo, whoa, that would be interesting going from playing Darnold to playing Garoppolo. I think Stafford will be healthy, but I think the 49ers win 27-19 and improve to 3-0 on the season. In week 4, the Patriots come to San Francisco. Kendrick Bourne will be returning. We'll see how healthy he is and if he's capable of playing. But who's going to be at quarterback? Is it going to be Jacoby Brissett, the veteran? Is it going to be Drake May, the young rookie? I hope it's Jacoby Brissett for May's sake. They need to allow Brissett to play at least the first 10 games to allow May to be able to acclimate and watch how a veteran quarterback plays in the NFL and watch Jacoby Brissett's mindset, his approach to game planning, to watching film, breaking down mistakes. There's so much that May could get from watching a veteran like Jacoby Brissett. With that being said, I think the 49ers, it doesn't matter if it's Brissett or if it's May, have a distinct advantage at multiple positions. The Patriots still have talent, but they are pretty much devoid of talent when it comes to offensive weapons. They just don't have that much talent when it comes to weapons. Juju Smith-Schuster, what's he going to be like? How healthy is he going to be? And then the offensive line is not exactly the most well put together. So the 49ers are going to be able to get after the quarterback. They're going to be able to make some plays. And I think the 49ers are just going to be too much. They're going to overwhelm the Patriots. 49ers win 34-12 in week 4 and improve to 4-0. In week 5, the Cardinals, divisional rival Cardinals, come to town. And the Cardinals, I think, is going to be an interesting one. Kyler Murray has been up and down in his career. When he's on, that team's really good. But we've never really seen him play significant snaps in the current offense that the Cardinals are running right now. Everything we saw from him before was with Cliff Kingsbury. They've added Marvin Harrison Jr. They gave him a legitimate weapon there. He has a good tight end as well. So there are some weapons. We know they're going to rely on the running game with James Conner, but what exactly is this offense going to look like? I think that's a good question. When you're looking at defense, they've added young talent over the last couple years. And I think people are hyping up some of the guys that they got last year a little bit too much. I think those guys aren't as good. I think they're playing, extra snaps, but I don't think they're as talented when you look at their body of work last year. But they did grab some really good guys this year. Robinson from Missouri steps in, and Darius Robinson was a guy 49er fans really, really wanted on their football team. But he's a big physical defensive end that's going to be able to set the edge, and they're going to want to be able to bring pressure off the edge and then set the edge against the run with these 5-tech defensive ends. He fits that role for what they want to do in that hybrid 4-3 type defense that Gannon runs. It's very Philadelphia. Buda Baker's still there, but they've got question marks in the secondary. They drafted a couple guys that are pretty good, but how quickly are those guys going to develop? Sterling didn't develop last year, so they've got some work to do. I think they're a team that could be better later in the year than they are early on in the year. I think that they've got a good coaching staff. They're going to continue to develop, but I still think they're a year, probably 2 years away from being a legitimate threat in the NFC West. So I have the San Francisco 49ers winning a pretty good game. I think the Cardinals are going to score some points, but 37-20. I think the 49ers offense is just too much for the Cardinals defense. I don't see them taking as big a step forward as a lot of people do, but we'll see. Maybe they do. I think on paper right now, though, that's where I see it. 37-20 49ers go 5-0 to start the season. In week 6, it's at the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football. And this is one of those games that gets you a little bit nervous. Now, recent history shows the 49ers have owned Seattle recently. A lot of that has to do with Brock Purdy. With Brock Purdy at quarterback, he has not lost to the Seahawks yet. He's won multiple regular season games and a playoff game, a wild card round playoff game in 2022. So Brock Purdy feels comfortable playing against Seattle. He's already traveled to Seattle in a short week and won twice. And he did it in his rookie season with an injured rib. So I feel comfortable with Brock playing in that environment. I think that environment was overwhelming for a lot of quarterbacks that went there because it's so loud. It's hard to understand. It's hard to hear yourself. But Brock Purdy is not easily shaken. He is a calm man in the midst of a storm. And so I think he's going to be able to handle this situation. And I think the 49ers are going to be able to handle Seattle early. Now, the question is, how quickly is Mike McDonald going to get the pieces that he wants put together for that defense? He got Baltimore figured out, and they were absolutely fantastic last year, especially on Christmas Day, where they got after Brock Purdy early and often and caused some mistakes. But does he have the same guys that he can put in those positions? I don't know if he does. I don't know if he has a linebacker play like he had last year with Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. That's tough shoes to be able to fill. And so he's going to have weapons. He has really good corners that just weren't fitting into what Pete Carroll wanted to do. He's made wholesale changes at safety. The defensive line is pretty good. They still got Leonard Williams. They drafted more defensive linemen to help. So they're doing a job building. Just how quickly are they going to be able to get close to the San Francisco 49ers? I think they want to stop the run. They want to pester Brock Purdy. The problem is Geno Smith is still the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. And when it comes to Geno Smith, is he going to be able to make enough plays? And I think as long as Geno Smith is the quarterback, I'm going to continue to pick the 49ers because I think he's going to make mistakes. I don't think he's going to make enough plays. And Brock Purdy will make those plays. 49ers win that game 24-16. I think it's going to be a one-score game. I think it'll be close. Short week, no game plans. I think that plays in the 49ers' favor as well. It doesn't give McDonald as much time to figure out what he wants to do. So 49ers starting out 6-0 as far as what I think. Then here come the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's that rematch of the Super Bowl. And people have been talking, me included, hey, 49ers need to win this for their mentality. They need to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And they're right. Now, here's the thing. The Kansas City Chiefs are coming off a full bye. So even though the 49ers are going to have a mini bye because they're playing on Thursday night against Seattle, I think the Thursday night Seattle game is going to take a lot out of the 49ers. It's an emotional divisional matchup. You just played on a short week with no rest. 49ers are going to have to take that mini bye to really rest up when they welcome in Kansas City. This is the same scenario, Kansas City coming in at the same time week 7 as it was in 2022. The difference was the 49ers were trading for Christian McCaffrey that week, and he wasn't fully equipped and ready to play. I think the 49ers played really well in the Super Bowl, had a very good game plan for handling Patrick Mahomes and that Kansas City offense. I think Dre Greenlaw was a big reason. I don't know if Dre Greenlaw is going to be back. And so, with that being said, I think there's an advantage for Kansas City as far as Kansas City's offense against the 49ers defense, unless somebody else steps up. Right now, I don't know who that would be, but you've got to be able to slow down Travis Kelce. And when they put you in situations where it's obvious that you have to be in a 4-3 set, I worry about the 49ers in coverage with the 3 linebackers they'll be able to put out there without Dre Greenlaw. They picked Orton Burks apart in the nickel when he had to play will linebacker. I worry about that as well. So to me, this is still a tough matchup. And finding losses is one of the most difficult things to do. I'm going to put Kansas City over the 49ers in this game. Now, would I be surprised if the 49ers won? No, I wouldn't. But I don't know the status of Dre Greenlaw. I worry about that matchup without Greenlaw. Kansas City was a different offense when they played against a Dre Greenlaw less 49ers in the Super Bowl. I think Kansas City gets the win 23-22. I think it's razor close. 49ers have a chance to win, but Chiefs get a victory, and it pains me to say that because I want the 49ers to win this. But I think right now, looking at it, I have the Chiefs beating the 49ers, more rest, no Dre Greenlaw probably. I don't like doing it, but I just did it. Week 8, Cowboys at 49ers. And the Cowboys came to town last year, Sunday Night Football. The 49ers absolutely blew them up. Over 42 points on offense, absolutely smoked the Cowboys in every facet. And it looked early in that game like it was going to be a close one. We had some turnovers by both teams. Christian McCaffrey had some uncharacteristic turnovers last year, fumbles in the red zone. Those are things you can't let happen. But they're going to be coming off a full rest as well. And they've got the bye week. 49ers are going to be dealing with some back-to-back teams coming off byes. That's tough. This is the Jerry Jones effect. These are the kind of things that he looks for and tries to get a competitive advantage. I think it gives him a competitive advantage. Here's the problem. I don't think they got better on the offensive line. I think they got worse. And they struggled to stop the 49ers pass rush already. I don't think they got better when it came to the run game. Adding Ezekiel Elliott's not enough. I don't think they got better when it came to the passing game. Michael Gallup's out the door. I love Brandon Cooks, and I think that they've got a good group going there with CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks, but I don't think they are that much better. I don't think they've answered the question of the tight end position as well. I think the 49ers are going to be able to get pressure on Dak and really cause some issues in this football game. So I think the 49ers ultimately win this game 30-20. I think it will be competitive. It will be a lot better than the game before last year, but I think the 49ers win this game. And doing it big here, week 8, I think it's the 49ers go into the bye week 7-1, and that's a great record. And it's hard to find losses, but right now that's just how I have it. If you told me the Cowboys won this game coming off a full bye week, I think I would be surprised only because the 49ers have dominated the Cowboys in recent memory under Kyle Shanahan, but you never know. I just don't think the Cowboys did enough to get better, and I think the 49ers are at worst very close to the same team that they were last year as far as talent-wise. But coming out of the bye week in Week 10, the 49ers play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. I think this one sets up for the 49ers to be very, very dominant. I think that just watching what the 49ers did to Tampa Bay last year when Baker Mayfield came to town, the 49ers really held them in check. And yes, they've got a very, very good wide receiver room. But the 49ers are going to be able to overtake that offensive line. Besides Christian Wirfs, they need a lot of help. They got young guys, Cody Mock. They've got other guys they drafted this season, but a lot of your talented offensive linemen have gone. And so this defense is a little bit different. The offense is a little bit different. They've got a lot of work to do, and I don't think they're good enough to handle the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers coming off a bye week. Yes, they're traveling, but the same scenario happened last year, and it was Week 10 versus Jacksonville. 49ers absolutely smashed them in Jacksonville. So I think here we go. 49ers do it again. They beat the Buccaneers 38-16. I think 49ers offense rolls in this football game, and they handle Tampa Bay. Week 11, Seahawks at 49ers. And this one is interesting. If ever I thought the Seahawks had a chance to get the 49ers, it's this one coming back because the 49ers are traveling 3,000 miles back to San Francisco while the Seattle Seahawks are coming off a bye. So you had Week 7, Chiefs coming off a bye. Week 8, Cowboys coming off a bye. Week 11, Seahawks coming off a bye. But I think the 49ers are going to be up to the task because Geno Smith is still quarterback. I think McDonald does better against the 49ers in some scenarios, but I think the 49ers will be rolling at this point. They'll be healthy because they just came off their bye week. So they're 1 week removed from the bye. That's enough, I think, to bridge the gap. I think the 49ers beat the Seattle Seahawks in San Francisco, which is a big, big thing and a big reason why. I think the Seahawks score the same amount they did before, but the 49ers tack on an extra field goal, 27-16 49ers. Week 12 and week 13 are coming up. And week 12 is going to be an absolute slobber knocker that could determine who gets the number 1 seed in the NFC playoffs. You've got the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Green Bay, Lambeau Field, to take on the Packers. And LaFleur has done a pretty good job of guys that have coached with Kyle Shanahan and then coached against him. He's one of the ones that's found victories. And last year when they came to the playoffs, I thought he did a really good job and they had a really good game plan. The water elements definitely played into the Green Bay Packers' hands. They were more equipped to handle it. Brock Purdy was struggling a little bit to throw the football, but you could see that the Green Bay Packers had a tremendous amount of talent at the wide receiver position. They have good young tight ends, and their running game was getting going at times. Aaron Jones was able to get some big-time carries. So they can get a little bit of a run game going against the 49ers. This could make it a little bit tougher of a game. I think in Green Bay at that time of the year, end of November, you've got Thanksgiving coming up. There's a lot of big games right in that category, and we don't know what the weather's going to look like. I don't know if Brock Purdy has figured out the wet ball scenario, but there's a likelihood that weather could play a very vital role in this football game. So matchup-wise, I think Dre Greenlaw's back. I think the 49ers are rolling with him and Fred and Devondre Campbell making his return. And as long as everyone is healthy, I think the 49ers have a really good football team. And I think they match up well with Green Bay. And I think if you got into the playoffs, 49ers could beat Green Bay for sure. But I think in this matchup, I think the 49ers are going to lose. I think traveling to Green Bay is going to be tough. I think it's going to be some weather issues in Lambeau Field. I think it's going to be wet. I think it's going to be cold. And I think that could slow the 49ers down a little bit, especially coming off a big game against the Seattle Seahawks. I think the Green Bay Packers are going to get a slim victory over the 49ers, 30-27. And that's a little bit of a struggle to figure out because I don't like the 49ers losing to the Packers, but I think the Packers are a good football team, and the Packers might actually get a victory here. Week 12, Packers win 30-27, giving the 49ers their second loss of the season. In week 13, this is where it's interesting. So the 49ers play Green Bay. They've got to fly back to Santa Clara because that week is Thanksgiving. I think in a normal scenario, the 49ers would love to have stayed on the East Coast, but that's not going to be the case. So 49ers travel back home, and they got to prepare for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills on a Sunday night game on the East Coast, December 1st. What do you think the weather's going to be like? It's at least going to be blistering cold in a Sunday night football game because even though it comes on at 5:30 here, it means it's 8:30 out on the East Coast. It's going to be cold. It's going to be frigid. 49ers are going to have to deal with something. Now, I don't know that's weather or just cold, but they're going to deal with the Buffalo Bills. And the last time the 49ers played Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, he went crazy, over 370 yards passing, and they've gotten better in the run game since then. They know how to get it done. They got Cook. James Cook has done a very good job. They've added young players as well. I think the Buffalo Bills are a good football team now. Tre'Davious White is gone. They've gotten rid of, other guys as well. Wide receivers have moved on. So they're going to have to figure this out. They've brought in some young guys. They've brought in some veterans like Valdez Scantling, Chase Claypool. How well will those guys play? I think that's going to be a big question, but I think it's going to be hard for the 49ers traveling to Green Bay, traveling home, then traveling back to Buffalo with Thanksgiving mixed in there. I think there's distractions. It's tough. Weather concerns. I think Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills do just enough to beat the 49ers 27-23. So 49ers lose back-to-back games, week 12, week 13, Packers, Bills. Don't really like doing it, but I think it's a scenario that could happen because those are good football teams. I could also see the 49ers beating them. I don't think these things are set in stone. I think it could go either way with those games, but right now I think I see Packers and Bills getting wins with the cross-country travel, the weather, and then also Thanksgiving mixed in between. Week 14, here come the Bears back home at San Francisco. 49ers will be in Santa Clara to play them. And I think in this case, Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, the Keenan Allen, they've got a lot of talent up there. I think they're going to come in. They're going to be firing a little bit more on all cylinders. I think it's going to be a fun game early. I think Caleb Williams is going to make some plays. He's going to run around, mesmerize some people. But I think the San Francisco 49ers are going to beat the Chicago Bears. I think when it comes down to it, the 49ers are just a far superior team. I think there's going to be highlight plays for the Bears, and you see them, and you're like, wow, that Chicago Bears team is going to be good in a couple years. They got a good defense. Our defense is getting better. Their offense has got a lot of weapons. They've got to get better on the offensive line. But I think the 49ers win that game 30-17, even though we get some highlight plays from Caleb and those playmakers. Week 15, the Rams come to the 49ers on Thursday Night Football. And I think this is going to be an interesting one. 49ers normally own Sean McVay and that group, but you had tough games, Packers, Bills, you had to grit to beat the Bears, and then you get a short week. And the Rams are coming off a homestand, so they're going to be at home. They're only traveling just up the same way the 49ers did in that week 3 matchup. So it's not a big difference between the two. It's basically the travel negates. It's just like a little over an hour in the plane. It's nothing crazy. So I don't think travel's a concern. Short week is a concern. I think the 49ers would normally win this matchup, but I think the Rams at this case are going to catch the 49ers a little bit. And I think the San Francisco 49ers are going to fall to the Rams 27-24 and lose a game in division. And I know it's not what anyone wants, but I think the Rams are going to be playing good. There is one scenario that I think this game could flip. I think if Matthew Stafford is playing, the 49ers could lose this game, and that's why I picked the Rams. But if it's not Matthew Stafford and it's Jimmy Garoppolo, I think the 49ers will win that game, and boy, would I want that to happen. I don't want Stafford to get hurt, so I don't want to cheer for that. But if he could just have a minor sprain or something that holds him out, I know he's a tough dude and he plays through things, but I would love to see Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco playing the 49ers and Brock Purdy on Thursday Night Football. I don't think anyone else would be hating on that. I think everyone would want that. Talk about must-see television, but we'll see. But right now I have that as being a loss, and that's the 4th loss for the San Francisco 49ers in the season, losing that Week 15 matchup to the Rams on Thursday Night Football, short week. Normally Kyle Shanahan does a very good job, but this one I'm going to give to McVay. You can't win all the divisional games every single year, even though they've done such a good job. Last year, they lost the Week 18 to the Rams. I was there. It wasn't a real thing. It was backups and all that, but I think this time it does happen. Rams will be fighting for their playoff lives. Week 16, 49ers have to travel 3,000 miles to Miami to play the Dolphins. Mike McDaniel brought his crew out here in 2022, and Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt in that game. And what did that do? It started the Brock Purdy era. Brock Purdy went in there and absolutely lit it up. He took care of the zero blitz like it was no problem, hitting George Kittle over the middle, finding Kyle Juszczyk in the flat for a touchdown, and he absolutely went ham and crazy. And the 49ers realized in that moment that, hey, maybe we have something with this young kid. We might not have to bring in a veteran to come play and start for this football team. And Brock Purdy never looked back the rest of the season. Well, now they're going to Miami, and the one problem with playing Miami is speed. At the wide receiver position, you've got Tyreek Hill, you've got Jalen Waddle, they added Odell Beckham Jr., not so much speed anymore from Odell like he used to be, but still, speed at the position. You look at the running back room, Raheem Mostert, Devin Achane, and then they added more guys in the draft. I think Jalen Wright came from Tennessee. They've got a lot of talent when it comes to fast players on offense and defense, because on defense, they added defensive players that can run, like Muhammad Kamara. So they are built and predicated on speed, and I think this is an interesting matchup. 49ers have been adding speed on offense and defense as well, so they are going to be able to handle a lot more of the speed than they had been able to in the past when you would have guys like Richard Sherman who weren't able to keep up. Sherman's, speed was in his mind. He was so intelligent, he could beat things that way, but they still got Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback, which I think is a little bit of an issue for them. So 49ers handled him before, and I think the 49ers are going to handle him again. I think the Miami Dolphins always start slowing down towards the end of the year. They come out, they are on fire, and then they start kind of falling off a little bit as the season goes. I think that happens here. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think the 49ers are going to beat the Miami Dolphins 38-27 in Week 16. Week 17, the Lions are coming to town. The rematch of the NFC Championship game, and boy, may this have playoff implications. I expect the Packers to play well this year. I expect the Packers to win a lot of football games, which means the Detroit Lions, to keep up with them, they've got to win big games too. So this one could have implications, causing a three-way tie. It could also cause one of these teams to take a step ahead of Green Bay. We just don't know what it's going to be, but we do know that this was a great NFC Championship game last year. It was Lions in the first half and all 49ers in the second half, and this game is set up to kind of get everything rolling on the end of the season. Jared Goff, new contract. Amon-Ra St. Brown, new contract. Penei Sewell, new contract. They brought in guys in the secondary. They drafted multiple defenders to help their secondary. Emmanuel Mosley should be healthy by this time. We'll see. Terrion Arnold, I really liked him out of Alabama. That's one of the corners they drafted. So this is going to be a fun one. There's going to be the question, can the 49ers stop the run game of Detroit? Can the 49ers make enough plays? Well, Monday Night Football, I think the San Francisco 49ers are going to win this game. I think this is what's going to keep the 49ers in that conversation for the number one seed. They defeat the Detroit Lions 26-23 on Monday Night Football, the 49ers' last primetime game of the season. Now, Week 18, 49ers at Cardinals. And here's where it gets interesting. I talked about the fact that the number one overall seed could still be in play. And I can see a situation where the 49ers need to win the game against Arizona. And I feel like if they do need to win that game, Brock Purdy playing in Arizona, he did pretty good last time. And I think the 49ers have done a good job when they've had to play their starters at the end of the year to solidify a certain playoff positioning. They've played really good. So I think even though the 49ers will be coming off a short week, I know the league is saying this game could be on Saturday or Sunday. It will be on Sunday. There's no way they're making the 49ers play Monday night versus Detroit and then turn around and play Saturday against Arizona. That's a competitive disadvantage. So it will be on Sunday, the January 5th. I expect the 49ers to play their starters because I think it's going to be close. And I got the 49ers winning this football game 31-17. Now, this is one of those games, I put it orange, where if the 49ers have already clinched the number one seed, or if their seeding can't be changed, they're stuck at number 2 or stuck at number 3, that I could see the 49ers resting their starters and playing their backups. The only reason that one would be interesting is you have a situation where Joshua Dobbs could be starting against his former team. And boy, would that be interesting if Josh Dobbs got that opportunity to play against his former team. He might even win with the backups, but I would say that game, I have the 49ers winning, but I could see a situation if they are resting starters where it could go Arizona. So overall record, I have the 49ers going 13-4. I think that there's a realistic positioning that they could fall down a couple spots. If you have them ranked 12-5, if you have them ranked 11-6, I think those are realistic. I think the 49ers are a good football team, and I think they're going to win a lot of games. We just don't know what's going to happen with injuries. But it was tough. It was tough going through these games because I think the 49ers are likely to win more games than they lose. That's for sure. And we know that they're favored in every single game that they're going to play during the season. So it's a lot of fun to go through these games and talk about these matchups and how the 49ers match up with certain teams. Of course, more of that will come out as the season progresses. We're going to get into these deep because the matchups that are going to happen are going to be make the determination on who wins and who loses. And hopefully the 49ers can stay healthy. That's one of the keys this season. That is for sure, to make sure they stay healthy. So let me know what you think about my predictions and leave it in the comment section down below what your predictions are. Of course, there's no right or wrong answer because we don't know what's going to happen throughout the season and how injuries are going to play out and all of that. But one thing we do know is the 49ers cannot go 0-20. So none of those. That's impossible. But I appreciate everyone for coming through and checking it out. Please like and subscribe to the channel. If you think I deserve it, I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, which is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, thanks to Believe Network, I really appreciate you for doing that. This episode was brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Until then, stay safe. And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.